Welcome to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast, the place where leaders come to learn how to create a workplace where people would be crazy to leave. Join your hosts, Holley Potts and Tony McConnell, as they serve up stories, strategies, and real talk that you can actually use today. Let's get into it.
All right. Welcome again to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast, the place where leaders come to learn how to create a workplace where people will be crazy to leave. I'm Holley Potts, and I'm here with my co-host, the Colonel, Tony McConnell. And today we're discussing an important part of leadership, which is delegation. So, Tony, I want to jump right in.
All right, let's go.
So this past week, we had one of our IWI table groups. Topic was delegation, and you had a ton of passion around this topic. And so, what makes you so passionate about delegation?
Because it's hard. It's very misunderstood. It's hard. It affects every component of what we've identified as the 6 key components. It affects all of those, and I really think it's what separates a manager from a leader is that ability to do that, because it takes more. Delegation isn't a one-step process. It's there's trust, there's feedback, there's recognition, and communication is essential, especially on the front end.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those that I could go on all day.
Yeah. So how would you define it? I mean, somebody said to you, what do you mean? What exactly is delegation?
Well, and I kind of try to use the term not just delegation, but effective delegation, because it's easy to think we've delegated and we really hadn't. It's kind of like the fallacy of communication. It just really hadn't happened. But I think the effective delegation is when you delegate an outcome, not a task necessarily. If and what happens, the tendency if we delegate tasks, and that's the tendency when we think we've done a good job delegating, is we delegate a task, which ends up sometimes being menial, which also can lead towards micromanagement when you do that. When you delegate an outcome and you give people the opportunity to reach that outcome on their own. I mean, it may not necessarily be like you did it, which is hard. That's hard as a leader or a manager to let go of this person's not doing it 100% like I would do it. But if the outcome is the same, what's the difference?
That's right. Yeah. So I felt like this week at our table group, it was a pretty powerful topic for everybody. I would say most people around the table struggle with it.
Oh yeah.
Because that's their business, their organization, their baby, So what is it that you think, and also what you heard from the group, that keeps leaders from truly delegating? Why do they want to hang on to that work?
I think, there's an ego at play. That's probably one of the biggest things is ego. Yeah. There's ego, and then there can be a little bit of empathy too, of like, I don't want to pile it on my people. I don't want to pile it on my people. Or I can get it done faster, and I can get it done like I want it. And nobody else can do it as good as me. That's where the ego comes in. Nobody else can do it like I do it and as good as me. Or if they see that Holley can do it as good as me, then they may not need me around anymore.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of different reasons. There's I'm the only one that can do it right, or I don't want to look like I have to hand off my work, or I don't want to overload my people. There's a lot of different reasons why people struggle with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people won't delegate, managers won't delegate things that they like to do.
Yeah.
And, I challenged everybody, and I challenged people at Dow Smith too this year of give up something that you like to do, not something that you don't like doing, because that's the easy ones.
So, like you said, most of those things that keep a leader from delegating are, a sense of pride about it, maybe shame that they're asking for help or whatever. There's a lot of things within the leader that might keep them from delegating. But as far as the people they're delegating to, what are some of the struggles there on the other end of it? Like, what do you need to know about a person to feel confident giving them something? Like what?
I think one of the biggest pitfalls of it is sometimes we think when we delegate, we've got to wait till we 100% trust somebody. Well, the problem is sometimes when you do that, you've missed that window to impact their growth. Mm. You know, you're not going to give a $1 million task to somebody you just hired unless you've known them and know their capabilities and you trust them. But sometimes you have to let go a little early. But we also got to know, what motivates people. Not necessarily motivates, because hopefully we're not hiring people we have to motivate. I don't plan on hiring anybody I got to motivate.
Yeah.
I want to hire motivated people.
Yeah.
But we have to make sure that we communicate on the front end what our expectations are with the outcomes. And then throughout, use the opportunities to provide feedback, and don't let somebody get way off course and then ride in on your white horse, because that's kind of a subconscious thing we do, is we'll watch something running off the rails and let it go a little too far instead of coming in early and making, on the spot corrections. Yes. There are some things to be learned from mistakes, but also it's not great on especially younger people to let them make a bad and unrecoverable mistake, and then you ride in on your white horse, and because they're going to look at you and go, well, why didn't you just do it to start with?
Yeah. I wasted my time.
Yeah, I wasted my time because I didn't do it like that.
I didn't do it like you, and you were going to come in and change it anyway.
Save the day with your white horse.
Yeah. You talked about not, trust and not doing it soon enough. How else can you build trust if you don't give it a chance?
Yeah.
You can't. It's kind of like I tell people about confidence. You're not going to think your way to confidence. You have to act your way to confidence.
That's
so you're not going to think your way to trust either. You have
thinking about something is not doing something.
Exactly. So once you let it go out of your hands, that shows the trust.
Yeah.
So how, you're talking about hiring people, like how do core values play into this? And maybe take it back, because it seems like in our discussion this week, we talked a lot about hiring the right people so that you can delegate.
Yeah.
So what kind of values, does a leader need to look for to feel they can trust?
I think, the thing you have to do is, as a leader and as an organization, you kind of have to develop your core values, and they can't just be 4 or 5 things stuck on a wall that, everybody recites. They really have to be, you have to live in every decision you make, every client you hire, does the client fit the core values? Every person you hire as an employee, you should hire them off core values, not just off of their resume. Because you can teach people how to do something, but you can't teach them the innate, what their value system is. And if their core values don't fit the core values of the organization and what you're looking for, eventually that's going to come out, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
It's never good. I think you have to hire the people that fit your value system, and they'll be happier people when they work for you too.
Yeah.
They'll be happier employees.
Yeah, and you'll be much more likely to just trust more easily if you know, okay, they're a fit, and they want this as much as I want this, and we have this shared kind of value system.
And the shared is probably the word that we didn't touch on enough this past week talking, but I've done a little reading since Wednesday, a couple of things, and that shared responsibility, that shared empowerment that happens through delegation is strong. It's a very culture-wise, a very strong thing. It pulls everyone, when you've delegated, it pulls everyone into what is the product, what is the goal of our organization. And delegation does that really quick. And that's where the shared responsibility, the shared accountability, the shared recognition.
Yeah. So a sense of ownership too. So talk a little bit about that, because that's where delegation isn't just task oriented, right? There's some sense of ownership that we're looking for.
Yeah, because to be an effective delegator and to delegate effectively, I guess is a better way to say it, there has to be empowerment. You have to empower the person you delegate an outcome to be able to do what tasks they think are necessary. When they go do their military decision-making process and they're like, okay, I got to do this, 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 this. You have to empower them to do that. You have to empower them to go spend the money that's needed to do this, to task other, to delegate part of that delegated outcome to other people. And then you also have to hold them accountable. And part of the accountability, and that's where the trust really comes in, is when accountability is when people hold themselves accountable for what you're doing. And I think the empowerment is probably one of the strongest things that helps the accountability.
Yeah.
Helps, spread the accountability across an organization.
Yeah, empowerment. So I've heard it said that some leaders like to just sort of throw something, people walk away and never check back in and call it delegation.
Yeah.
But
that's normally just tasks and things that they don't want to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that doesn't lead to empowerment, I would say.
And people, I think when you just get delegated a task that you automatically know is going to be, you see it when it comes out for what it is. Okay, it's like, okay, Holley just doesn't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you realize that.
Yes. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. It's like you're just given a checklist of items.
I think, I think a big part of effective delegating is for it to be outcomes that matter.
Yeah.
You delegate, I don't want to say task, but you delegate one of your tasks that matters, not just something that you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about matching the thing you're delegating to the person you're delegating it to? Like looking at a person's, we talk a lot about strengths and personalities and working genius and all
That's
that stuff.
knowing your people.
Yeah, knowing your people.
Which is a key to leadership is you got to know your people to delegate to them effectively and to trust them and to hold them accountable and to communicate with them, especially communicating with them because, not everybody receives communication. Not everybody's going to pick up what you're laying down.
Right. And a certain illustration just came to my mind. I don't know if this counts as delegation. You can weigh in on it, but like Cody at work moving into the safety role, he's in a coach role.
Right.
But at first he was like, they're asking me to do safety. And he had this feeling of like, is that really, is that my wheelhouse? Am I going to be good at it? Is that just something somebody needs to do? And I remember asking him, like, what if you took safety and made it your own completely? Like, instead of looking at what it was before, like, what if you took your people skills that you have, your coaching skills that you have, and just dream it up? And you saw what he came up with. I mean, empowerment, he took this whole approach of like, it's not going to be me just being kind of that safety guy showing up, fussing at everybody, but it's me having a relationship with people where they know I care. I'm checking in with them on job sites, on other things besides safety, He very quickly combined the two roles into a stronger two roles, actually, I think. His coaching was strong and his safety, aspects were strong. But now that he's figured out how to combine them and make it all work together, he's really made two stronger, very needed very needed parts for the organization. Right. And if we were just delegating the task, he would have just learned how to do a report, how to use that software, and it would have felt like just more kind of busy work that somebody needed to do. But when we said you're responsible for the outcome, like what do you want safety to look like according to your passions, your gifts, your strength? And I think that's a bigger part of delegation than people realize. Like, find the right person who has what it takes to do the thing to get the outcome. Yeah. And that's why we do need to know our people.
Yeah, my only pushback to that would be, I think sometimes delegation can be used to push people beyond what they think they're capable of, because it's kind of like the Goldilocks principle. You push them past that 100%, get them up to that 100. What they think is, about 20% more than what they think their capabilities
Yes.
are, because that's where the growth happens, the magic. That's the
Yeah.
magic sauce of growth.
We have definitely done some of that, like throw you in the water and learn how to swim. And there's been some detrimental effects sometimes. So how do you know though? How do you know?
You don't know. And that's the beauty of it. You don't know.
Yeah.
And not every time you delegate something to somebody are they going to succeed.
Yeah.
Just because they did really good on one task or one outcome that you were looking for, that doesn't necessarily mean next time they will.
So let's say you give them a pretty big thing, pretty big outcome, trying to empower. How and what should the communication look like between that leader and the person they've delegated to over a time frame? How does that look so that they don't feel like they're getting in over their head?
I think the initial communication and setting up what you think the goals are and what the expected outcomes are is probably the most important. Mm-hmm. And then setting a, not necessarily rigid, but a timeline, a road to war, whatever you want to call it, an effective timeline of, okay, we're going to have these checkpoints.
Yes.
Like we do all the time.
Yes.
We're going to have touch points, but my door's always open. If you don't get stuck, you got to make sure you tell them not to get stuck.
Yes.
But just go ahead when you assign them the outcome, and hold and give them the empowerment and let them know what you're expecting, accountability. But go ahead and set touch points, whether it's weekly, quarterly, whatever it ends up being, whether it's a long term outcome that's your base task or what you just gotta set pretty good things to our and probably need to put that in writing,
I
especially
think so
the feedback part, where you're providing feedback all along, and both of you are providing feedback.
Yeah. I can see where that would make a person feel more supported rather than micromanaged if they knew ahead of time, hey, we're going to have these checkpoints where I can ask for help, I can get clarification, make sure I understand what those parameters are.
And they're also good opportunities to recognize somebody that's doing a really good job at it and pushing themselves.
Yes.
Because that's something else that when you delegate, you got to make sure you recognize when somebody's doing a really good job, not necessarily just because they got the outcome that you wanted, but throughout the process.
Yes.
Especially when they come up with something that you wouldn't have come up with.
I was going to say, that was a thought I had.
When they've bruised your ego by doing something better than you would have, you got to make sure you recognize them for it.
Right. What was it? Who was it that we heard say recently, you need to hire people that are smarter than you to be a good delegator?
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you can recognize that, and we've talked about humility as a leadership characteristic too. Like when you can recognize the person I delegated to came up with a better solution than I was going to do, you start to get free, Let's talk about sort of IWI, Irresistible Workplace Initiative, understanding of delegation. You had said, it's not a task dumping exercise, but a strategic culture building discipline.
Right.
So flesh that out a little bit. Because we're all culture, right? It's all about culture.
It's all about culture. What we're talking about, and delegation is just it's a vessel that you can stick those 6 key components to and elevate them, because it's like, and I'll just go down the 6 components, with leadership, it's a confidence builder. And, one of the sayings that we've heard, and I don't know who it was, it may have been Gino Wickman from EOS, said that you're truly not a leader until somebody you have led creates a leader.
Yes.
And I think as leaders of an organization, no matter where you're at in that organization, you should always be looking at building up and growing your bench of leaders. And delegation is probably the number one way to do it.
To get to it,
to get to it, and it shows that you're committed to that. Which, and that kind of segues straight into growth, which is in small organizations. We've discussed before that in small organizations, growth doesn't look the same as it does in the military or in big organizations with a lot of hierarchy. In small organizations, you have to jump on a growth opportunity every time you can, and make them when you can. And delegation is a growth, at least a broadening opportunity, not necessarily, may not get more money or whatever, but it is an opportunity for people to grow, and you get to see where their next position could be in the organization. And then after growth, it's a perfect, to me, it's a perfect example for, on an opportunity to provide feedback, whether it be just off the cuff feedback or if it's, like we said, scheduled feedback. And anytime you delegate, if there's not a feedback component in it, it's not going to be as effective as it could be.
That's good.
And then, throughout that, you got to recognize people, which is a really good, as we, found out during one of our best table meetings was about recognition, and people don't feel like they take the opportunity to recognize their people. Yeah. And when you delegate, there is a lot of opportunity to recognize.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, even those little checkpoints, every time you check in with them is a chance to offer them recognition, but then maybe at the end of it to give them a broader recognition where everybody's seeing it and that.
And you have to decide, is it something I want to do publicly or in private? And that kind of goes back to an individual thing too. But another thing that balance does, if for the leaders and for the organizations, is it also makes it where one person's not having to do everything, it enhances the balance component.
Yes,
so it will make it where leaders can eventually will be comfortable with taking time off and detaching from work.
That's something we've seen a lot of our guys really giving it a try, is trying to step away for longer than they have before, leaving certain things in the hands of their people so they can step away. And that's like, I always talk about entrepreneurial freedom. Like that's the goal of it, is to get more and more freedom. So the more you're sharing that load, the more everybody's going to get of that.
Yeah, there's just, if delegation's done right, I don't see any downside to it on the cultural, on creating a culture.
Yeah.
It's just one of the strongest elements of leadership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You had said that an organization cannot flourish if the leader does everything.
Does it all, that's right.
Yeah. And I was thinking about, and I think I shared this on Wednesday, because I have a background in church planting. And one of the speakers we heard talked about personality-driven organizations. So you've got one leader who it's their baby. There may be very charismatic leader, or, they have a lot of gifts. They're able to do a lot of things. And so it's hard to know what to give up if you're good at a lot of things. But what I saw in the church planting world a lot of times is no effective delegation, to where if that leader had to step away, leave, something happened, the thing would just crumble. Like they had not built a healthy organization because it was built upon one personality, one set of gifts, and I guess that can happen just as much in the business world. If somebody doesn't think about sustainability, what happens when you get ready to retire or you want to do something different and you haven't built it up outside of yourself, so.
Organizations, a lot of times it seems like when that is the case, they drop off, and occasionally they'll come back, but not always.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, how would you say that healthy delegation can change the culture?
Well, first of all, probably the easy no-brainer one is that work moves faster. Yeah. Things move faster when one person's not doing it all. It cuts down on bottlenecks. If you're doing everything, you're a bottleneck.
Yes.
Well, there's no doubt about it.
Oh, what was that book? Speed of Trust.
Speed of Trust.
I can't think of the guy's name right now, but hey, y'all go look at that. Speed of Trust.
Speed of Trust. That's an awesome book.
Yep.
Who Not How. That's another great book about delegation.
Yep.
Leaders avoid burnout. It's easy to burn out when you're trying to lead, yet still trying to be responsible for everything. And I don't mean just the top leaders, the leaders throughout the organization, because, like we've said many times in culture and in organization, as goes the leader, so goes the organization. If the leaders are modeling that they have to do everything and have to make every decision and have to be responsible for ultimately they are responsible for every outcome. But if they have to be personally responsible for every minute outcome, then down the hierarchy, the other leaders are going to do the same.
Yeah.
Because they're going to think that delegation is not respected.
Yes.
And fear that it, comes off as laziness, which it is as far from lazy as you can be.
Right, because it takes work. If you're going to do it the right way, it actually takes more work.
It does take more work.
That's probably why a lot of people go, I'll just do it myself, easier.
Yeah. And then, you develop new skills. Your team members develop new skills. If you can delegate something down to a mid-level manager, it's a very big growth opportunity for them and push them outside that comfort zone.
Yes.
And then, and then people feel trusted, and they feel valued, and they feel empowered, and they also have that sense of ownership.
Yes.
And the trust, especially the trust and the value and ownership too, to an extent, they are very key in having a good culture, a culture that can weather storms. Not because like we've seen and we've talked about, it takes a long time to get a culture where you want it. You got to be intentional. It's not going to happen overnight, but it doesn't take long especially when trust and people being valued and their self-worth being questioned for a culture to disintegrate. Yes. And then, the resiliency of the organization is enhanced when you delegate.
Yeah.
Effectively delegate.
Yes, I like that. Because you got to define it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some tools that we shared on Wednesday that there was a lot of energy around. Because a lot of times people, they may want to do it, but they're like, where do I even start? Like, how do I start? And we gave them some really simple tools that have worked well. One being the Eisenhower matrix, right? You want to talk about that a little bit?
General Eisenhower, during World War II, leading, he's the supreme Allied commander, leading hundreds of thousands, if not millions of troops, which he didn't really lead that many people personally, but, as the leader goes, so does the organization. Yeah. He was very good about, delegating and spreading out. And when he had a tool that basically to help him decide what he needed to work on and what he didn't need to work on, because there's so much at his level he had to deal with. And it basically is said that anything that's urgent isn't important, and anything that's important isn't urgent. And, it's basically a four blocks, and he's got important, urgent, not urgent, not important, not urgent, and then
let's see,
important, not urgent, I think.
Yeah.
We may have to cut that out.
No, I got it right here.
We may have to cut that out.
There you go.
All right, let me look at it right quick. Not important, not urgent. Okay, yeah. All right, ready again?
Yeah.
He had basically just a matrix. It's 4 blocks, and it's important, urgent is the first block. You do it. You just got to do it. You got to make the time to do it. The next block is things that you schedule, and that's the not urgent but important. Those are things you put off to your next staff meeting to discuss or your level 10. And then he has the not important but urgent. And those are the things you delegate. You replicate yourself. And that's probably, we haven't really talked about that yet, but what delegation does is it helps you to replicate your organization. It builds your bench. It makes it where one person isn't doing everything. You want to have a lot of people capable of doing it.
Yes.
And then the last block, which is the not urgent and not important, that's the stuff you delete, according to him.
Yes.
You just don't, we ain't got time to mess with that.
Right. Eliminate it somehow.
Eliminate it. But the box, really to talk about is that delegate box.
Yeah.
And then, in the entrepreneur operating system, the EOS, they have a delegate and elevate.
Yes.
And it's kind of the same matrix a little bit, but you basically pick things you love and you're good at, things you like and you're good at, things you don't like and you're good at, and things you don't like and you're not good at.
Yeah.
And those, and you sort of delegate and elevate and get rid of off of those.
Yes.
And
if you don't like it and you're not good at it, you should not be doing it. I don't care who you are in the organization.
You're costing the organization money. It's like a
Yeah.
good friend of mine, Rob Covert, said one time. He said, Tony, if you're doing your subordinate's job, you're stealing from the company.
Right.
So,
but then there's that one on there that I think people get stuck in, which is, I don't like it, but I am good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get stuck doing that, but it drains you.
Yeah.
And so finding the person who could say, actually, I like it and I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Finding that person. Yeah.
Because if they like it and they're good at it, they're probably going to be better at it than
you are. Exactly.
Because they care more about
yes,
it.
Yes.
And one of the things we talked about, it sort of came to light, and I don't know if I've read anything about this, but I think it's true, is if you have healthy processes and strong processes, standard operating procedures and just your processes and data-driven processes in your organization, they can help you with those bottom, that delegate and that delete. They will help you get rid of those tasks.
Yes.
And those outcomes, you stop worrying about the things that aren't important.
Right.
Because if everything's important, nothing's important.
Yes. And having processes in place is a way of delegation.
Yep.
It's like a preemptive delegation, in a way. You also had a conversation starter, I think, in our talking points of like, when you're ready to go to someone and delegate, how do you approach them? And you even had a little script, I think. Because sometimes people don't. It's like, oh, how do I say it without them feeling like if you're dealing with the pride and the ego and the shame and all that stuff, like, how do I go to somebody and actually ask?
Yeah.
That's so. What's a good way to
Holly,
ask?
I would like you to take the lead on this podcast.
Okay.
Success will look like having 6 podcasts ready to launch in January.
Okay.
Here's what we can decide, or here's what you can decide. Here's where I'd like updates, and here's the deadline. It's like, you can decide the format, Holly. You can decide where we're going to do it at. We're going to probably get together every couple of weeks and just talk about, how it's going, just like we have our same page meetings.
Yeah.
And, the deadline is I'd like by the first week, maybe second week at the latest, unless you run into some things that, are unexpected. And we'll navigate those when we get there. I'd like to have our podcast up on the website and people watching it.
Yes.
And us being ashamed of it.
Well, you know what though? What you didn't say.
But I'm here to support you too.
Yeah. What you didn't say, which I appreciated, was I need you to do this topic, this topic, this topic, this topic. You said I'd like to have 6 episodes by January, and I think that you gave me an outcome in that instead of just giving me a to-do list and then me go execute that.
Because then I've made all the decisions.
You've made all the decisions, exactly. Right. And then I wouldn't have ownership. I would just feel like, oh, I have another task that's being put on me.
That's all it is,
Yeah, great example. Love it. And the offer for support. I really felt that, Tony. I know we're just kind of role-playing that, but I felt that. It's like, hey, I'm going to check back in with you and see how it's going.
This is a line that I'm sure I read it somewhere, and it's, it's, you got to change the mind. You got to shift your mindset from, it's faster for me to go ahead and do it myself.
Yes.
To it's better to grow someone to be able to do something.
Better, right. Better and actually faster
and
in the
faster.
end.
In the end, it will be faster.
That's what's funny is it's almost a myth. Yeah. What the things that keep us from delegating really are myths. And the true work, you may have to put some more work on the front end, but if you're going to build that well-oiled machine, that's self-managing, as Dow likes to say, then you do that work and then it goes from there. All right. So what about, let's do some pitfalls or red flags, what to look out for. I think we've hit a lot of these: delegating tasks and not ownership. Kind of covered that one really. Waiting too long to trust.
Oh, yeah.
What are some other, pitfalls to look out for?
Well, one of the biggest ones that kills delegation and makes it where I don't think it is effective is just not empowering people, but also not transferring accountability. If I say, Holly, I want you to do these podcasts and I want you to have them launched, and there's no accountability in whether it gets done, then first of all, you're going to think, well, he didn't really care about that. That was just just a task he didn't care about.
Yes.
He didn't even follow up to see that I didn't get it done till March.
Oh, yes, yes.
I think you have to, and even if it's an outcome that is not a make or break, when you're delegating to someone early on in their career and in your trust, their trust building exercises, you have to hold people accountable for it, because if you perceive, say I give you the podcast to do, and then you perceive that I didn't really hold you accountable for it, then you're going to also, well, he didn't give me he didn't delegate something to me that was important enough for him that mattered.
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, what's the difference if I do it in April or March?
And do you think when you have the right kind of people, going back to the hiring, that they welcome accountability?
Oh, yeah. People, I know I do personally. I like to be held accountable, which I also, most people that like to be held accountable hold themselves more accountable than you ever will.
That's right.
And, we've talked about, you and I've talked about this on several occasions.
Yes.
One of the things that, and we talked about a little bit earlier too, as a pitfall, is waiting too late.
Yes.
Missing that prime opportunity to give somebody something. Waiting until you think they're ready. Because if you think they're ready, they were probably ready 6 months ago. And,
and one way to beat that is the EOS tool that says every quarter you as a leader should be thinking what you can delegate. Every 90 days, you got to give something up. And that is a challenge, because especially if you're sitting in a pretty sweet spot and you're like, well, I don't want to give anything more, But it's, again, the freedom. You're looking for the freedom and the way the organization is going to function. So,
and probably this is going to go back in almost to a segue to end this. But, don't just delegate things you don't like.
Yes.
Like I challenged.
Give us the challenge.
I challenged our table group members with a New Year's resolution challenge of delegating something that is meaningful and that they like to do. So if you're out there and watching this, delegate something this month that you like to do.
Yes.
Not just something you dislike. Delegate something that you are comfortable doing and that you like to do.
Yep. That's wonderful. Got to put it into practice.
I know.
Yeah, give it a go.
I know it. And even if it's something you do at home, that's the beauty too. It kind of, when you become a effective delegator and you do it at work and you do it at home, your work-life balance, integration accelerates. I mean, if you constantly find yourself not having time to cut the grass and it is becoming a problem, there's a who out there that can cut your grass for you. Yes.
All right. So I'm going to close us again with this statement that you said, the very first, because I just love it. Delegation is not a task dumping exercise, but a strategic culture building discipline. So disciplines take time.
Yes, they do.
And take a lot of work. So hopefully we've encouraged everybody to give it some thought and to give it a go and jump off the ledge a little bit and look for ways to delegate.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We will see you on the next one.